Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So as you can tell by the title, this is going to be a video on art and accessibility. It's a video that I've actually been thinking about for a really long time, ever since I made my video on the white gaze, and creating art through the white gaze, and Kanye West, and black critics, and all these ideas about art, and this idea of what is art, and what's taken serious in terms of art, and kind of creating through this white gaze and through this idea of you know um, whiteness as the standard. So and then Seat at the Table came out and kind of crystallized a lot of these thoughts that I was having, because A Seat at the Table is literally, like, from the title to the lyrics to the song titles. It's not really meant to be accessible for white people. She even has a line like, "Don't be mad if you can't sing along, just be glad you got the whole wide world." Like, it's very clear that this is, like, not meant to be accessible for certain types of people. And it made me think of Toni Morrison. She has a famous quote, which I love. You guys know I love Toni Morrison, where she says, "I don't create for the center. I stay in the margin, and I let the center find me." And I feel like I live by this quote. I make videos by this quote. I write by this quote. Like, this quote's just everything to me. And the context of the quote was that Toni Morrison was sitting down in an interview, where the white male interviewer asked her, how long are you going to write about black people? Like, when are you going to move on to, like, more serious stories? Like, you've been getting all this acclaim for your work, so when are you going to write, like, some real work, like some real art? And by that he meant stories about white people, and preferably, white men, because, like, that is what's taken serious, when you're creating art in the white gaze, is you have to be operating within these spaces of whiteness, right? And she said, white people are never asked, when are they going to stop writing about white people? No one questions who, I hope I pronounced this right, Dostoevsky. She said, like, no one questions who Dostoevsky is writing for when he, like, writes in Russian, and when he, like, when he, like, writes these stories that are set in Russia. She's like, but I write about black people. I create art about black people and for black people and with black people in mind, and I get questioned. And that interview and, bodies of work like A Seat at the Table. I recently saw my very first play by August Wilson. I saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is a play by an African-American playwright named August Wilson, he's dead. He did pass away. But he did a series of 10 plays, a centennial series, where he wrote about African Americans at different points over a 100-year span of time. So I think it was like 1910, 20, 30, 40, 50, and through a 100-year period, and about the different points of where they were, in America and in society and in our lives, And it's just kind of this idea. I just started having all these ideas about space and about accessibility. Like, I went to watch this play, and I'm sitting in the theater, and I'm looking up at the stage, and August Wilson was very into dialects and writing the way that African Americans really talk, and, getting the slang right, getting the African American vernacular English right, getting the tones of the conversations and the topics of the conversations, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I feel like, I'm watching something that's just for me, like, I'm watching something that's just for me. And it's interesting because they had a Q&A portion after, and some of, like, the questions that, like, the white people were asking just made me feel like you just didn't even get it. Like, you just sat here for, like, 3 hours and you just didn't get it, And it's really interesting because, like, when a white male Russian writer of classics, writes in Russian, they don't say, like, nope, we can't teach this in classrooms. We can't have this in our curriculum. Like, we can't have this in our spaces. They translate it, right? They don't say, like, nope, we can't hang this Da Vinci painting in our museum because the name of it is in Italian, right? They translate it. They make space for them. They create accessibility for these works. But when you're an artist of color, and especially a black artist, you're expected to make your art accessible to the center and not the other way around. You're expected to do all this emotional labor to make your art accessible for the center, you know? And that's creating from within the white gaze, right? Which I talked about in my Kanye West video. And if you don't make your art accessible, if you don't create it within the white gaze, then 9 times out of 10, it's either ignored and discarded entirely by the center, or the center seeks to co-opt your work for themselves. I'm watching this August Wilson play. It cost me $100 for those tickets, right? The vast majority of the audience were not black faces, because the tickets were fucking $100. Like, who has $100 to pay for tickets? Like, I saved up to buy those tickets because I really wanted to see that play. And in a way, sitting there watching it, I felt like this play has been co-opted in a way, like, by people that are going to sit here and they're going to watch it and they're going to ask stupid-ass questions at the end because they're not even going to understand what they just watched, you know? Which also makes me think of Lemonade, you know? Which makes me think of people that will, like, you know, grab little sound bites. I got hot sauce in my bag, swag. But they don't, number one, they don't even know that fucking hopped about the bed, turn my swag on is a Soulja Boy lyric in and of itself. You know, they don't even know what the cultural context is. They don't know what she's talking about, you know. But they're grabbing it and they're making it accessible for themselves because Beyonce didn't do the emotional labor of saying, like, here, white people, this is for you, you know. Makes me think of acoustic guitar covers of rap songs that are really popular on YouTube. This one girl did this cover of Work by Rihanna that people were like, oh, now I can finally understand the lyrics. This version's so much better than Rihanna's version because I can actually understand it. And why didn't Rihanna fucking make the shit in regular English so I could understand it? Like, well, because maybe this shit wasn't for you. Did you ever think about that? And everything doesn't have to be accessible to you. And just because it's not accessible to you doesn't mean that it's bad. You know? Like, and it's just this idea of I'm going to find a way to consume this piece of art that clearly isn't meant for me without actually making space for it in the center, right? Alice Walker, she wrote The Color Purple about, you know, a poor black woman in the Jim Crow era, deep American South, who I haven't read that book in a long time. I don't know if she, like, actually uses, like, the words lesbian but, like, she strongly hints at Silly being a lesbian. Like, she gets as far away from the margin as you can get with that book. And the center found her, and they gave her a Pulitzer Prize, but then they made a movie about it, and the movie didn't win any Oscars because it wasn't accessible, you know. Lemonade, which simultaneously pissed off white people, yet was also co-opted by white girls for its strong empowerment theme, you know, white women who just disregarded that it was about black women specifically, you know, co-opting while managing to not center it. You know, Lemonade hasn't won any awards, no Emmys, no nothing, not that Beyonce fucking cares or that anybody cares, you know, but, like, Lemonade didn't win any Emmys because for all the hold-up memes and white women blasting Lemonade in their cars, it wasn't accessible to Emmy voters. She didn't make it to be accessible to them, and space wasn't made within the center for it to be accessible. You know, space wasn't made for understanding, you know, why it was made and what it meant to people and why people found it important. It was just consumed on a very surface level, and I feel like A Seat at the Table has taken that extra step of being even more, like I've said before, A Seat at the Table is deeply, deeply personal, so there's really no way to divorce Solange and her blackness from this. Like, she literally says in a song, like, don't be mad if this shit's not for you. Like, she's very confrontational with the fact that this is not meant to be accessible for everyone. But what happened with that? She had to turn comments off because she had people whining and crying in the comments about how, you know, oh, this is racist, this is that's racist, this is reverse racism. No, you are trying to suppress me and my Tina Lawson voice, you know? Like, it's, and I just say all this is really just like a musing, a meditation, you know? And I just say all this to say, kind of like I did say in my A Seat at the Table Part 2 video, it's very interesting how you have a lot of these artists, especially these black artists, that when they start creating without, you know, the commercial consumerism in mind, without, you know, trying to make a commercial hit, without trying to make radio hits, pop-friendly hits, we end up with these really deeply personal, incredible bodies of work that are accessible for us and made for us. And I just feel like that's the way it should be, and yet they still manage to fucking go #1 on the charts. Like, and that's just the way that I feel like it should be. I just feel like don't create for the white gaze. It doesn't matter. Create for you. Create for the margin. Let the center find you if they're gonna find you, you know, but then don't let them fucking mindlessly consume and eat your work like a fucking wolf eating its young or some shit. I don't think wolves eat their young, but you guys know what I'm talking about. You know, like, just create for you. And I've just been musing on that a lot and meditating on that a lot as I create and write and do videos and, you know, look ahead to what I want to do in the future. And I just wanted to make this video talking a little bit about art and accessibility, because I know a lot of you guys are artists and I thought you would find it kind of interesting. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.